How's it going? Today is 8th of January, Wednesday, and we're gonna be taking a look at the market, what's happening. Today we're gonna be briefly touching on the UK, and we're gonna be progressing and taking a look at some of the developments when it comes to Lithuania and or perhaps budget. From budget, we're gonna be taking a look at perhaps some of the developments. But first, let's start with UK. Start with facial Islam. Soaring kids borrowing codes are a problem for some of the politicians. Right? Let's try to understand it. Perhaps that would be person who have written this article. Okay, and from there we're progressing and taking a look at perhaps borrowing. So that's potentially what we are taking a look at, and all cost of borrowing. Right. So previously I believe it was 4.4, where in comparison in Germany was 2.2% of cost of borrowing, right? Perhaps government is borrowing, looking to invest a lot of capital, but maybe into housing or other services, but we don't know that yet, right? Economists have warned that the government is on course of missing its own budget borrowing targets after interest rates for UK long-term borrowing raised to the highest level in a century. Sure, the Office for Forecast and Office for Budget Responsibility will start the process of updating its forecast next month to the percentage of Parliament in late March. The raised cost of borrowing means that there is significant chance of. We're referring to a lot of names and all companies. I don't know any of these companies. What we're looking to understand. This video is gonna be way too long. Everyone can read this article, right? What is the cost? The yield of the 30-year gilt reached 5.25% on the Tuesdays, spring and the previous high in October 2023. That's the only thing. They might get. I don't know. I haven't read it. They might get political, or perhaps there's some information that's missing. That's the only thing as of now we're taking a look at. Perhaps there might be a lot of initiatives where they would be investing that money in. We're not covering that. There might be an article. We haven't read it. If government is borrowing, let's hope government is investing in something that would be able to yield 5, 10, 20, 30 times those returns, right? That would be, oh, there should be a lot of people taking a look at it. And let's take a look at Lithuania, what's happened there. Let's take a look at Lithuania. Let's start with the budget when it comes to Lithuania's expenditure, right? Again, well, that's information that I will be reading. I don't know how accurate some of that information might be. Since then taking a look at education expenditure, so I would like to compare India, where India perhaps 4.1, 4.4, or perhaps 4% around that area. UK might be, depending on what information we're taking a look at, sometimes it could say 10, sometimes it could be 4.1, it depends. Education can be very expensive. But anyways, let's take a look at Lithuania, that really defense spending. Lithuania has an active increase in its defense budget with a recent commitment pushing the spending to around 3 or 3.5, perhaps even higher, right? And perhaps projected expenditure might go as high as 4%. And again, it's not the that would be how well this capital would be allocated. That's what's really important. But as of now, we're taking a look at only at percentage wise, right? As well as education expenditure. Again, sometimes some education can be very expensive, by the way. So what's reasonable expenditure for education and how well some of the systems could be scalable. So that should be important. Perhaps cybersecurity, from cybersecurity, and all other areas, finances, and how taxes would be collected. So banking potentially, and from there we're taking a look at perhaps some of the software solutions and all platforms where it could offer very flexible in terms of time, as well as how well some of those pilot projects might well be delivered when it comes to actually providing people with the best services, right, including education. So that's some of the areas that should be important, but not necessarily they will be important, since education typically around 14 to 15% of the annual budget, right? From there, let's take a look at some of the developments, right? Previously, as well as some of the research that we were taking a look at, that would be mine. So I thought we can take a look at perhaps it has been noticed, which is very important. Perhaps people taking notice of people asking for assistance. And people noticing that. It's kind of strange, but let's take a look at that. Would be Lithuania's Prime Minister backs a mine ban convention exit. Defense Minister wants regional solutions. Since there was so much feedback when it comes to perhaps Lithuanians or taking a look at this subject as well as having these kind of capabilities, since at the time there was very serious people who were saying that that's not the best idea. But perhaps let's try to understand it. Then some people saying it's not the best idea. We all understand what that person had in mind. But Prime Minister, okay, it says Lithuania should withdraw from, okay, a convention banning anti-personnel mines. Uh, Perhaps there's a lot of things to unpack, right? We were taking a look at technology solutions, how those mines should be detected. We briefly touch on that, as well as tech startups, how this problem might be able to solve, as well as how some of those mines not used based on how, from technical standpoint of view, some of those mines used on drones, and those mines not designed to use on drones. So perhaps there's more to it, right? Drone mines, it's non-existent. Nobody, as of now, building mines for drones. If that makes sense. So some of the feedback, but let's continue with this article, right? Defense Minister, and let's progress without names, stress the importance of the regional solution. I believe we should withdraw. Okay. There's some statements. Let's progress with without those. There are a lot of people and they are taking notice. We can continue with this article, but there's so many articles with regards to mines, right? That would be some of the people are making a lot of statements, right? Let's progress without names, and there might be some company names. Let's progress without those. Says has not yet received official military advice on Lithuania's withdrawal from the convention. So perhaps it's not official. As well as she had previously said that such advice would be the key element of making a decision of the issue. There being no official military advice yet, or on our military advice will be very shortly. I know we will have the official position of the armed forces. The defense minister told reporters on Monday, in her words, their goal is to have common regional strategy and the upcoming meetings with the counterparts. Okay. I have this article. Let's close this article. There's another two articles perhaps with some of the developments, and this matter is very important, right? As well as there will be another article that will be published yesterday. That will be Lithuania President 8 urged against harshly exit from the mine ban convention. Potentially, there's another opinion up there, which is great. So there's back and forward, and all people trying to understand everything related with this matter. But this video is gonna be too long. Let's progress. Let's take a look at the next article, right? That will be another article that will be published today. That will be mine ban convention tie hands of the military, says Lithuania defense chief. That will Lithuania withdraws from. I don't know of this convention. I haven't read it, so I'll progress without names. Convention banning anti-personnel mines will untie the hands of the country's armed forces, Lithuania chief of defense. Let's progress. The name said on Friday. We see what is happening in Ukraine, and there might be some political statements. If possible, let's progress without those. So potentially, it's been noticed there may or may not be important developments happening in the background when it comes to perhaps some of the capabilities. And as I mentioned, perhaps mines might change in meaning as we go along, since entire equipment and all capabilities would need to change as we go, and how flexible some of the developments and definitions in particular mines as we understand it perhaps would be something digged in the ground, but as we can see right now, it's not necessarily digged in. Sometimes minds are flying. Whereas definitions in all the way how we understand it might have changed, right? And or will change in not too distant future, right? Let's take a look at the last article that the Lithuania Defense Minister complies list of 25,000 conscripts. That really only when the Lithuania Defense Minister complied the list of conscripts for 2025, and it includes just over 25,000, 149 young men, and perhaps there might need of additional personnel. And let's encourage more women if possible. There was a lot of back and forth. But we should perhaps encourage more women to take on perhaps you know, volunteer. There's a lot of things that perhaps cybersecurity, perhaps engineers, perhaps medical staff. There should be more women, right? And let's touch on that as well. Comply with the process of 4 independent observers. The list still needs the defense minister's signature. In total, the list of conscripts will produce a country's 6th region, and all of there were plans to call up nearly 3,900 young people to serve this year, right? Or perhaps receive training, right? Or there might be, I don't know, a lot of things changing all the time, right? So perhaps a particular period there might be training. Perhaps there would be different structures when it comes to payments and or volunteering, or perhaps continuous and or pursuit of career in military, as well as from there perhaps progressing into private sector. So perhaps a lot of people come in as or perhaps to receive training, serve the country for 4 years, and or with that training, as I mentioned, cybersecurity, perhaps a lot of people can progress into private sector, and people with those skills perhaps would be able to be hired into private sector, right? Perhaps that old engineers and or software or equipment engineers, some of that equipment can worth 30 million. So a person can fix that type of equipment. A lot of businesses would be looking for those professionals. Perhaps that would be continuous professional development opportunities, and all private sector and all companies would be looking for those kind of professionals. Since we were taking a look at our influx of skilled professionals and all from outsourcing a lot of those opportunities to other countries, perhaps a lot of countries should consider how to upskill people, and or perhaps after the win-win situation kind of, but who knows all the details yet, as well as it haven't been signed yet. So I thought it might be worth touching on that, and let's encourage more women. So since there's a lot of men as of now, let's close on that. Thanks for watching. See you next one.